Hello, and welcome to Explore the Neuroverse. And welcome to Explore the Neuroverse. In this episode, I have got a good friend of mine with me, Aimee. Aimee is here as my body double / emotional crutch. Body doubling is a term in neurodiversity where you struggle to complete a task by yourself. And as part of this first series, whatever we're calling it, I wanted the opportunity to introduce myself to the audience. However, the idea of sitting here and talking to myself into a camera, I find incredibly daunting. So therefore, thank you, Aimee, for coming in.
You're welcome.
I mean, you have been pretty much involved in bringing the Explore the Neuroverse to life. It's not like you're not
aware.
Well, you are the technical person, basically, behind all of this. I mean, you've brought my website to life. You've pretty much kept me on track, got me to learn all sorts of things that I knew nothing about before, which, you know,
I mean,
learning
me neither,
is...
to be fair.
Learning is good. And this has been a massive learning curve, right? There's
absolutely.
When launching a podcast, there's an immense amount that you need to learn. It's not as simple as just, I think I'll have a podcast. There's a lot more that goes into it than that. I feel like it's like everything in my life. If I'd have thought about it in a bit more depth, I probably wouldn't have done it. But I'm loving doing this. But if you know how people put barriers in their own way, right?
Yeah, of course.
So like, if you think about something, you're like, I really want to do that. But this, but that, but this, but that. I mean, everybody could do that. I could have done that to myself with this podcast, but it's basically a passion project. It's very much something that as Georgie said in her episode, I talk about a lot, apparently.
Well, you've talked about it, but also you've gone ahead and done it, which is...
Yeah.
And I feel incredibly privileged to be part of this journey that you've been on, so...
Yeah, and I do believe very passionately in the subject. It affects my life on a day-to-day basis because I have a neurodiversity household and each of the members of my family have a completely different profile. Well, not completely different. I mean, there's similarities, but we've got two camps in my house. Mm-hmm. Obviously, the audience have met Yasser and Monty, who are I was going to say big and little versions of each other, but they're nearly the same height at this point. And then there's me and Jad.
Yeah.
So, you know, two very different profiles, two very different sets of needs. And sometimes it can be like, who's the loudest, who's the most sensitive, who's going to melt down, there's a lot going on. So I live and breathe neurodiversity as part of my life on an everyday basis. My job as a mum is to understand, and wife, is to understand everybody's needs all the time, whilst also maintaining my own needs because I'm also neurodiverse. I have ADHD. And that can be complex. And the whole point behind the podcast was to just bring that more into the forefront because I don't think it's talked about enough. Like, when was your first experience of the word neurodiversity?
I honestly can't really remember, but probably in being around you guys more than anything else. Actually, yes, I do remember.
Go on.
Teaching in Charger many, many years ago, there was a child there who had Tourette's. He was 7, and that was probably...
Did he say really naughty things?
It was more of I don't think he got to that stage yet.
So more like tics, a presentation of tics rather than words.
And teaching a class of 7-year-olds with him in the class was extremely disruptive. So actually that was my first experience of it. And I was very lucky that there was another teacher there who had experienced it in the UK, and therefore she was able to understand what was going on with this child. And, you know, I suppose that was probably my first experience of it, which meant that I wasn't entirely oblivious of the different way that people sort of function, I suppose. But, you know, definitely have a bigger awareness now.
You've done a crash course.
Well, quite. And obviously spending time with you and your family, you know, that I've definitely seen that in another way.
In real life.
In real life.
What exactly that means in my very mental health household.
Yeah.
And it is real, though. It is real.
Yeah,
and,
it's definitely real.
You know, I think it's really hard for people who have neurotypical families to understand what it means to have a neurodiverse family. Because like sometimes we'll be invited to something and I'm like, it's going to be your neurotypical families there. And my children don't sit still and be quiet. And neurotypical people don't necessarily have the tolerance for it because at this point in time, neurodiversity still isn't completely understood in the wider community. So their expectations of these neurodiverse children is that they're still going to conform to all of the societal norms, basically.
And that's how we were brought up, right? So that was pushed onto us generally as a society as from when we were kids.
Well, that's what I mean. It's societal norms. Neurotypical children don't fit in the square, the square peg, you know what I mean? They need a round hole. But when you go to a restaurant or something with a group of neurotypical people and their children are all sat behaving themselves, having a nice conversation, doing the colouring, whatever, and you have the kids that don't want to do those things and have an opinion about everything and fidget more than people are comfortable with, then it creates a problem because what most people see from the outside is bad behaviour. And it's not, actually. It's that they're not able to cope with the environment. Maybe it's too loud. Maybe it's too bright. Maybe there's too many people. There's all these other factors. And part of the journey of being a neurodivergent parent is almost teaching yourself that those rules were made up by who knows, who made them up?
That's sort of what I mean,
why
right?
do those rules exist? I mean, on the radio the other day, I talked about my son needing to sit on a chair upside down with his head dangling off of it to be able to regulate. And, you know, in whoever house he was at the time where that happened, and I remembered that from, he was being told, don't do that, sit up straight, blah, blah, blah. So why? Why does he need to do that? He's not hurting anyone. So as long as the child isn't hurting anyone, okay, he might not be conforming to societal rules, but he's doing or they're doing whatever they need to do to regulate themselves. So the break for a parent, breaking down the expectation, this level of expectation that's placed upon you that you and your children quite simply cannot perform to, because that's what it becomes. Like if your children are doing all those things in those environments and they're neurodiverse, they're probably masking and masking heavily. And that means internally their body and their brain is screaming at them, but they're doing everything they've been told and they're trying to sit as still as possible. And it's actually very difficult. And then someone asks them a question, they'll explode because everything is bubbling up inside of them.
Yeah.
And then
it has consequences, right?
Like, yeah, absolutely. So in some ways, like sort of swinging back to where we started, it's easier sometimes just not to take your children out with neurotypical people because then you don't have to deal with the judgment and the shame. And, you know, neurospicy people tend to find their tribe anyway and sort of gravitate towards people who are a bit more different and a bit more quirky and probably have a neurodiverse diagnosis themselves. So they understand more and they're more tolerant. But in my ideal world, neurotypical people would learn more about the differences of the neurodiverse people and some of the struggles that they face and also the brilliance as well. Like we're friends. We spend a lot of time together. Do you see my neurodiversity? Like, what do you like when? Obviously, are there any traits that I have that you're like, oh, that's ADHD? Can you tell?
You always feel like a very busy household. So maybe I haven't understood the nuances between just being very busy and lots of people versus an ADHD trait.
Okay.
I have to admit. Yeah.
Except for all my sensory needs.
Oh. Yeah, there is that.
So
I wish you'd asked
for the audience, I have sensory processing disorder alongside ADHD, which means that I really struggle with bright lights, repetitive noises. There's actually a word for it, and I can't remember the word, but the noises basically go through my body, and I become ragesome. But I can't control it. It's literally something that happens. That sound for me, I'm incredibly sensitive to. Fabrics. I can remember when I was a kid, I went away on like some day camp or something, and my mum took me to a school and dropped me off, and I was really cold because, again, I'm really sensitive to hot or cold, anything sensory. And she bought me, bless her, she went into town because I was like, I'm really, really cold. And she's like, okay, I'll go get you a jumper. So she bought me this really lovely jumper, which was silk, but it smelled. And it was, honestly, I put it on and I lost it. And my poor mum thought she'd done something really nice for me, and she probably couldn't afford to buy this beautiful jumper. And I basically threw it back in her face because I couldn't cope with the smell and the touch from the jumper. But my mum didn't know at the time. And of course I was a child, but now I'm older, I can and I've also obviously come to realize these things about myself. I can laugh about it and be like, Mum, do you remember that jumper? And she's like, oh my God, now it makes sense. You know what I mean? But we didn't know these things.
No, of course not.
In the 80s, I was just different. There wasn't the language or whatever. And my mum was averse to this idea of a label that we've talked about quite extensively on other episodes, which was very much of the time. So she wasn't doing anything wrong.
No, and again, back to those societal trying to fit in and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah. But ultimately I was different. I've always been different. I'm perfectly happy with that. Like Georgie and I said on her episode, we're like Marmite. And that's okay. That's okay because, you know, if everyone was the same, we'd all be really boring.
It would be very boring.
There's space in the world for every different type of person. But yeah, so you do see the sensory side of me. Like I can't go to a noisy restaurant. I can't have the man with the leaf blower outside my house nearly dies once a week. Why they need to blow the leaves, I do not know, but it drives me insane. You don't have a pea shooter,
otherwise you'd know about it.
Oh, I have been out and screamed at him before. Okay. I told you, I can't control the rage that comes out of me when there is a noise. It is quite bizarre. I mean, maybe I should ask Dr. Ashley if there's some sort of treatment or something I can do for the repetitive noise. But yeah, I mean, sensory things. I mean, on other episodes, this is the only episode I've done without my glasses on because they didn't go with my outfit.
Right. I mean, coordination.
But I wear my glasses all the time, not because I have a problem with my eyesight. My eyesight is 20/20. It's for the glare because I can't cope with bright lights.
And it's good that those sorts of things are coming into for people to be able to purchase and buy with tints in them and things.
Well, I made them myself, darling.
No, I know yours you did.
That's my other brand.
Layer glasses. But so there's an understanding that these things people need some coping
but actually, in fairness, the first time I had my eyes tested in the UK, I was probably, I'm going to say 10 or 11, maybe 12. And they identified at the time that I needed anti-glare.
Oh.
Yeah. So I never had a prescription in my glasses. I've worn glasses since I was, whatever that age range was, 10 to 12. But always for the glare. Yasser, who came on to the first episode, he often, if we go out at night, he will wear yellow lenses. I mean, they look very cool on him.
Yeah.
But he wears them because it actually helps to sort of, in social situations, it's almost like you're hiding behind something.
Literally,
you know what I mean? I mean, literally,
yeah.
But it also helps with the bright lights, blue lenses, yellow lenses, anti-glare. All of those things are good if you're sensitive to lights or just need that sort of little bit of a filter between you and the world, basically.
Well, this is what I mean. These tools are coming in more and more accepted that people, one, are available, and two, that it's should be totally fine that you have these things, and it's not because you can't see properly.
No, I mean, I also tried the earbuds that you use. Well, I got to the ears eventually, but all of the brands are different, and there's something out there for everyone. So I'm not going to endorse or not endorse any of the brands because I don't think that's particularly fair, because I certainly haven't tried them all. But for myself, I tried the loops first, And what I found was that they dulled the sound. So like if I was at a concert or something like that, it would dull it to a noise that wasn't quite so penetrating and overstimulating. But I couldn't hold a conversation, which is therefore a problem. If you're there with your friends and everyone's like, huh? So in my head, I would sound really, really loud. Yet I wasn't projecting at all. And I'd literally spend the entire time going, huh? And then take one out, which isn't overly helpful. And then I tried the Hears. And actually the Hears, I believe they're a Dutch brand. When you go to Holland, people wear, if they go to like a loud place, it could be a concert, a nightclub or whatever, people will generally wear earbuds to protect their ears, which is quite smart. So therefore I think they're more advanced with their technology with these things or whatever. But the Hears, definitely, they dull the sound and I can still hold a conversation whilst wearing them, which is perfect. So like, imagine those like noisy cafes that you go to.
Echoing in the back and...
Yeah, like, when you... Like, for example, I've been to some with, to meet with the ladies from Three Busy Brains.
Right.
And first thing in the morning, there's no background noise, everything's fine. And then we've been there for a few hours because we never stopped talking, the three of us. And the noise has escalated. And if I didn't have my Hears in my bag, I would have to go home because the sound reverberates through my body and makes me basically twitch. Not literally physically twitch, but inside.
And
that is how I feel.
Yeah,
I can't cope with it and I need to go. I'm overstimulated, etc., etc. But putting the Hears in means that it sort of gets rid of all the background noise, and I can still concentrate on the conversation. So it does make a huge, huge difference. And as you said, there's tools now that are available to people, which is a good thing.
Yeah. It's a good thing. And it's a good thing that people are talking about these tools too.
Well, that's the other thing,
so then
right?
It makes it more comfortable for why you're, not just because you're protecting your hearing, but actually there's more of a reason, and then people are having more of a conversation about neurodiversity, which has got to be a good thing, right?
Yeah. I mean, that was part of the reason of having the podcast, is to talk about these things more, normalize them, share the information, share loops versus Hears. I'm not saying one is better than the other.
No, it's about finding what works for you.
This is my experience, and this was through trial and error, and that's basically what we have to do. I mean, my kids have all sorts of sensory toys that, some work, some don't work. You have to go through the whole thing.
How you're able to do so many different assets.
I mean, that's a fair point, right?
In some ways,
my ADHD brain is probably the reason why I'm not sure I love that superpower term. People use it. Do I mind having ADHD? No. As my children said on their episode, well, we don't know what it feels like not to.
I mean, they have a fair point.
Which is a fair point, but actually, I don't want to be normal. That would bother me immensely.
You don't know what normal is?
Well, I don't know what it is, but I like being different, that's for sure. But my brain works in quite a fascinating way, like because of the ADHD. Like I can do a million things at once. I mean, we were at dinner the other evening
I was
writing an email, listening to the conversation, and remembered someone's name to pipe up into the middle of the conversation. You were like, how do you do that? Because I look like I'm not even paying attention, right? But yeah, I mean, I can multitask, but my life is so busy, I have to multitask. But I suppose the question is my life so busy because I need to be that busy because my brain is working that fast? Maybe people who don't have ADHD, they don't need to do as much as I do. I mean, I constantly have to be moving. Like I'm either exercising or looking after my children or running businesses or coming up with new ideas, and
or sleep. And then
I don't sleep a lot, it has to be said. But that's also part of it. My brain is so busy, but I also don't need a lot of sleep. There are some people, like my husband, who need a lot of sleep. I actually don't. I can function on very little sleep. As long as I'm being productive, my brain is stimulated to a level, but it's turning it off.
Well, that's
at
sort
the
of
other
what I
end
mean.
of the
You're
day.
either sort of massively on or it's off.
Yeah. And I do burn out. I do very much burn out. I'm learning. I was talking about it with Georgie on her episode. I am very much learning because I'm also learning about myself. We always are. It never stops. I got diagnosed just not because I needed a diagnosis, but because it helps me.
Knowledge,
it gives
knowledge
me
is power, of course.
Well,
right?
yeah, but also Dr. Ashley talks about it in her episode, or does talk about it in her episode, where I lost my train of thought. That's an ADHD thing. What was I saying?
Oh God, you've made me forget now.
Oh God,
because you said that.
Complete mind blank. You can tell it's the end of the day. I can't remember.
Dr. Ashley was saying.
Yeah, I can remember that bit. I can't remember why I was saying that.
No, neither can I, because the more we all talk, the more I
What
then
were we
forgot.
talking about before that?
No.
Yeah.
That was going on a really good trail as well.
It was. It will come back to me. Yeah, it really has gone. That's terrible. You can tell I've done 4 of these today because it's really not coming back.
Well, I was listening so intently that then when you asked me, I was like, oh God, I don't know what.
I don't know. It will come back. Let's move on. I think we were talking about sleep.
Well, it was sleep and then having it.
I find it very difficult at the end of the day to switch my brain off, but sometimes I'm just so busy that I'm so exhausted I put my head on the pillow and fall asleep. But generally speaking, we were talking about burnout and that.
Oh, yes,
burnout.
You were talking about, Georgie was saying about her burnout.
Yeah, it's about self-care and self-understanding. I find if I have to, if I'm out in like a social setting a lot, then I need to have like downtime where I need to sort of turn off my brain and sort of when you like, especially when like me, like just happened, I do forget what I'm saying mid-sentence and it can feel very uncomfortable. And I was telling Georgie during the episode, I had to give myself permission to sort of say I've forgotten what I was going to say and own it rather than panicking in my own mind. But actually being in those social settings, like when I go on work trips, for example, I always call it being on, and I'm the boss all day and I'm in meetings all day, and then at night I go out with a team and I'm constantly talking and constantly on. By the time I come back from a work trip, I am mentally exhausted and have to like recoup from that. My body and my brain are sort of out of sync with each other. So it's interesting the cycles that one goes through with ADHD in terms of you can be full on. You're like winning at life, and then all of a sudden you sort of almost like drop off a cliff because you've basically pushed yourself to the brink, because that's how your brain works and that's how your body works. You have to be moving and doing and thinking all the time. Don't get me wrong, I don't necessarily want to be like that all the time. I'd love to be able to switch off. I don't know what that looks like.
I mean,
nor do you.
No, I don't love yoga retreats for that reason. What do you mean? I have to sit here and be quiet.
Silence. I don't get it. Like I've been to like meditation classes.
Yeah, me too.
And my body turns off, but my brain doesn't. I'm lying there thinking, oh, I could plan to do this and I could go there and then this happened. Oh, and then. And by basically, like I went to this wonderful sound healing meditation class a few weeks ago during this very strange time that we've been in here in Dubai with the war. And it was great. It was one of these silks that you lie in, and it gave you a blanket. I love a blanket because I'm very sensory, of course. It was like, but it was a cocoon, I believe, and a pillow. It was very lovely. And, you know, the sound healing, which I love sound.
Yep.
Music for me is very calming and therapeutic. And that could be very fast or very slow. It doesn't matter. But it was a lovely, relaxing hour, but I left more energized than I arrived because my body had gone to sleep, but my mind certainly hadn't. I'd mapped out the next 5 weeks whilst I was lying there for an hour.
Think about all the things.
Which is why actually I want to try, and maybe I'll bring this up in another episode once I've actually done it, but guided meditation where they talk to you, so you actually have to focus on what they're saying. Right. Rather than there just being a noise, like this, like breathing,
no
breath
noise,
work,
which definitely leaves space for your brain to sort of think more. One would think.
I'm not going anywhere silent.
Well, that's what I mean. So therefore,
I thought you were suggesting I go somewhere silent.
I'm saying if someone is talking, you don't have the space for the silence to then drift off and be thinking about a million things when you're supposed to be relaxing, right?
Yeah. I mean, relaxing it means something different for everybody, right? Everyone's idea of relaxing is completely different. So
I mean, some people go hiking to relax. Some people
I don't get that.
no, but
I need anything fast. I mean, I'm hyperactive, so something slow for me I find incredibly dull. But if that works for you, I've got nothing against hiking. I mean, it's lovely to be in nature. Of course, nature is incredibly healing, especially for autistic brains like Monty's, for example. But as much as I have a nice time, it doesn't do anything for me. I want to be in a racing car going really fast, you know what I mean? Or something really fast, anything fast. I mean, you like roller coasters.
I mean, this is true. They can be just as relaxing in a very different way.
Yeah, I mean, but self-care can look like different things for different people, right? And actually part of having ADHD is actually recognizing the traits in yourself. And I can anticipate normally when I'm going to have some form of a burnout. And because I am getting better at understanding myself, and since I've been diagnosed, I've paid more attention to, you know, all the information that's available to you on Instagram or talking to people. And now I can manage myself much better so that I don't crash so hard, either so hard or at all. So actually
Pacing.
Pace yourself, take a step back. Like this, for example, this last 8 weeks has been wildly intense on so many levels.
It has. It's been very strange.
I mean, we were talking about it on the Three Busy Brains episode, but I need a holiday. Like I need to just be somewhere else and do something different. Not because I hate it here, not because I've had a terrible time, but I'm exhausted. And I just need to just rejuvenate myself in some way and come back and start again.
Routine.
Exactly. Yeah.
And expectations.
And it's that level of understanding yourself. And I think that's the whole, like swinging back to why I'm doing the podcast is the more people talk about these things and normalize it, you know, the more people will go, oh, hold on, am I like that? Or, oh, that's a nice tip. Or, oh yeah, maybe I should give that a try, or oh, I'd like to seek out more information about that. I mean, I'm not claiming to be an expert, but I have been on a journey. I do have a neurodiverse family. I've got experience of different diagnoses, not just in my direct family, but in my extended family as well. My brother has dyslexia, my mum has dyslexia. And then obviously once you get diagnosed with various things and start to understand more about the neurospatial world, and how it is fundamentally hereditary, as Dr. Ashley mentioned in her episode, you start to see it in your extended family as well. So you can sort of see those traits. So, I mean, it's learning. Everybody's learning and being more compassionate and more understanding, trial and error, and also being kind to each other, you know what I mean? And obviously that's bringing it on to then the Three Busy Brains. There is an offering of community and connection and advocacy as well, because all of those things are needed by the community, I believe.
Yeah, just talking about it and then having the next steps. And
not
help
just,
and support.
I mean, the whole point is that you're not on your own, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I've talked about it before. This journey can be very, very lonely and isolating, and neurotypical people don't understand what you're going through, and they're only going to be tolerant to listen to you for a certain amount of time because they can't relate to it. They're not going through the same experience. So that's okay. I mean, I can't relate to neurotypical activities either. I mean, because it's not my experience of life. So therefore I do understand that it's hard, right? But you need to find your people. You need to find your tribe. You need to share your stories, live your experience, give it trial and error. And that's what me and the Three Busy Brains are here for, basically.
Good stuff.
Well, I mean, this was a ride. I mean,
don't know.
this has been a whole vibe. I mean, as much as I'm hosting a podcast, therefore I'm putting myself out in the public eye or whatever that sentence is. I mean, I prefer to have like the conversational things because it's a back and forth and it's not just about me. But I have enjoyed being able to share like a little bit about myself,
Who you are, and
about who I am, and
the foundation of
where exactly
Explore the
this came
Neuroverse.
from. Yeah, exactly. So thanks for coming on and being my body double.
Anytime.